Hey, the better rifle. Drop the gun! Oh, shit! I'm hit. I'm okay. I'm okay. But I'm not gonna die.
Welcome to Badges, Bullets, and Blunders, the show that tells funny cop stories from real people who live them. I'm your host, Travis Harless. Today's guest is my good friend, retired Captain Bobby Woolard. Bobby, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long were you a police officer for? What did you do before you became a cop? And what are some of the assignments that you worked when you were a police officer?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Travis. Bobby Woolard, most commonly referred to in the workforce as Bobby Ray, which we all kind of get our handles, either something that you do or when somebody anoints you with and I don't know why, but it seems like it's one of the veteran slick sleeves that kind of coins you and what carries with you throughout your career. But I'm a native son of went to the local schools, graduated from high school, barely like most of us, I'd go into law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I enlisted in the Marines in 1989. Did a 4-year hitch in the Marine Corps and got the first word of the law enforcement side of the house through one of my staff sergeants. His name is Pembroke. And he just got picked up with LAPD.
Mm-hmm.
This is after a big hiring freeze and post Rodney King and everything that was going on down there. And that's pretty much the interest that I started looking down the law enforcement route. I actually applied for LAPD and was on their hiring list. And I had relatives that were also correctional officers
Mm-hmm.
with the state. So I was married, my wife, and we had a small child. So I had to think of the responsible routes, like should I reenlist? Should I go do law enforcement? And one of my relatives said, well, CDC's hiring as well, coming off of a long hiring freeze. So I put my name in the hat for many agencies, LAPD being on the hiring list, I mentioned that, and then CDCR, or CDC at the time.
Yeah.
The way it worked out when I ended my enlistment, November 23rd of 93, CDC gave me a conditional letter of hiring for January of 94.
Okay.
So it just made more sense. It's like a for sure job. Let's go see what this thing's all about.
Yeah.
Little side note to side note, I mentioned my family member told me about CDC, but I also have a brother that's 10 years older than I. And we'll just call him Ray Ray. And he's my half brother. And he's a convict, been a convict his whole entire life. Man, love that guy. And
So you had family members with experience on both sides of the prison.
mostly cops and robbers in my family.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some cool stories? I can throw some stories out about that too. And they're mildly interesting, but they're cool. So for some reason, I'm stationed down south, and my dad said that he's going to go visit my brother Ray Ray up at Corcoran. And I'm like, oh, okay. And my dad, knowing that I was going to be a CDC guard, that I accepted the offer. Or no, I was waiting. I was in the hiring process. So my dad talks me into going up to visit my bro. And backstory behind that, my brother's from Santa Barbara. And my dad's first marriage. And the old man was married 7 times. So he had a lot of,
Set up franchises.
Yeah, mom was number 6. He left mom to go for number 7. And then he almost I call her Mommy Ocho on the hook, but my dad passed away before he was able to get his claws in the next one. And anyways, so I fill out all the paperwork, and I actually go to Corcoran State Prison to go visit my brother. I've never visited him in jail or anything. And intermittently through our lives growing up, when he got in trouble in Santa Barbara, he would come stay with us. They messed up, and then he would, go back into juvenile hall equivalent down in the Ventura, Santa Barbara area. And he grew up in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he was a Sereno. So he ran with the gangs down there. So my brother's been in prison most of his adult life. And so I knew he would go like to Soledad for a while, and he'd come out, and then he escaped from 2 jails down in not 2 jails. He escaped from one county jail down in the Santa Barbara area, and he escaped from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office in their holding tank. And
Legit.
and he got picked up twice. So the reason I mentioned the Corcoran, because when anytime he goes to state prison, he's always locked up in the ADSEG or in the highest level of custody because he's an escape risk.
Yeah.
And so he, so we go to Corcoran after the paperwork, got the date figured out, come to town, me and my dad, I can't wear blue jeans, you can't wear this. Okay, I got the list. So I'm wearing my khakis and I look like, Jake from Allstate, the insurance guy, my shirt's tucked in the gig line, my hair,
Yeah.
So we get to Corcoran, and I don't know a lot about the criminal history of my brother. Now I do because he since came out of the career convict role. Now he's got a legit business or a legit job, and he's a heavy equipment operator. He's done real well for himself, and he's in his after convict life. So get to Corcoran, and the place, if you've never been to a prison, it's very intimidating, and I'm just like sweating. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this, but we go inside and follow all the other family members. Kids are in tow. They got ice chests. I'm like, what in the hell is this? I'm thinking prison is supposed to be like punishment, but this looked more like a party going on, visiting day at the joint. So we finally go into the visiting, check in, go through the screening, go empty your pockets like that, like a upgraded TSA kind of process. And then you get into this one room that has all these metal benches and everything, and families and conjugal visits going on around their vending machines. And I'm like, all right. And I'm waiting to see my brother. I'm seeing convicts coming through the glass, and I see him. Okay, I don't see him. And it's been a while since I seen him. And well, that's not him. He runs with Hispanics, but he's white. And or half white, half Armenian, and I'm like, that's not him. And I'm trying to go, I don't recognize, but they all have shaved heads. They all look the same with their best prison tuxedos on, all pressed out, looking good. Brown shoes or spit shine. No, bro. Okay, and then everybody's visiting, and it's loud as hell in there, and I'm like, well, I don't see him. And then the guard comes up and goes, oh, Woolard, come with us. I'm like, oh shit. So now we got to go through another door. I'm like, where in the hell are we? Then we get to the third level of security. We're deep into some concrete enclave, and there's the typical Midnight Express window with all the metal in it, and a phone on the wall, and two metal stools attached to the thing. I'm in a jail cell inside of a jail cell, and I'm sitting there.
They're gonna wheel him in on a refrigerator dolly.
That's what it felt like. So. I'm sitting there, my dad's standing up, and I'm sitting at one of the benches. And then, I don't know, it just, through the opening, or through the glass, you can see the room, and you can see the door, metal door with a long, window, and a food port. And then I see orange green, through the port. And I'm like, whoa, and that caught my attention. Then you can see the door open up, and then you see my brother, he's shaved head, he's got his handcuffed, and they push him through this thing, and these two big gooners that are the guards in their jumpsuits, and these guys look like steroid freaks. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And my brother goes in, they shut the door behind him, they open the food port, they're unhooking him. So I just pick up the phone, and I'm like, and it said all inmate calls are recorded, and I'm like, okay. So I got the phone to my ear. My bro comes and he sits down across from me. And I'm in shock. I'm like, what in the hell is this? And he looks good, man. He got that prison swole on, doing all the burpees and stuff. Yeah. So he sits, when the door shuts, I have the phone on it, and you could barely hear what's going on, but it's not really a clear comms. But I hear my brother say something like, fuck you, gooners, or something. And he turns around. He has this grimacing, soulless look on his face. And I'm like, it's just the shock. I was like, he saw me, and then I see him looking at me and he smiles. And he comes up, he sits down, and he picks up the phone. So now we're glass to glass. I'm holding my hand up like I'm on a human contact. and Ray goes, Bobby Ray, you look good, man. How you doing? I'm like, what is this, man? And he goes, oh, these son of bitches thinks I stabbed somebody. All bullshit. Anyways, how you doing? I go, I applied to be a correctional officer. He goes, correctional officer? I'm like, and he goes, man, it's a great job that, you got good benefits. And he ran the whole thing down to him. I'm like, no shit. So anyways, I hang up the phone. I go, well, I guess, I told him I was on the hiring list for LAPD. And he also said, he goes, oh, that 3-strike, man, don't fucking do it. You're going to end up getting killed out there. So I go, copy that. I'll be a guard. Hung up the phone, and we did our little visit. And that kind of set the path. And based on what my brother told me in the 3 strikes, I wasn't aware what all that meant, because I'm a dipshit 20-year-old at the time. And I said, well, I could probably do this prison thing. And that's what I ended up doing. I took that path instead of LA. Now, when I was in CDC, I did two prisons stints, like to sound like my brother. But one stint was at, I got out of the Marine Corps, excuse me, in 93. And in January, November of 93 and he wasn't even out long enough to collect an unemployment check, man. I was bummed out about that. So I took my terminal leave, like the 30 days or 40 days, whatever it was, and I stretched it all the way up and shot up the Galt to California. And that's what started the wonderful world at CDC. So
How long were you
Galt,
there?
California. It was a 6-week academy.
Uh-huh.
And when I guess coming from a Marine background, I expected a lot more because I thought, okay, I'm going into a live-on academy setting,
Yeah.
barracks, you know. I'm like, nah, no problem with that. And we get there for day one, and this class, they just came off of maybe a 2 or 3 year hiring freeze. So it was a big class, about 700, 800 CDC guards. And so they house you by, well, sex, but also your platoons or companies or by your last name. So Woolard, all the W's would be, you know, the Woolard, the W's, Y's, or whatever. And we do the orientation in the morning, big auditorium, and then you see a bunch of people. I think 90% of that class was scheduled to open up Ironwood State Prison. And Ironwood is a brand new joint. So all these new guards are going to that prison. I selected Chuckawalla State Prison. They're right next to each other in the city of Blythe. If you've ever been there,
Beautiful.
recommend it.
Beautiful this time of year.
It is. So Chuckawalla, which was a level 2 institution, open dorm setting. So they call it like a 270 design or something. And then Ironwood was a level 3 and above, I believe. So these were pretty much celled kind of housing units. So having all these new fish go to these housing units, my uncle that was in CDC said, or recommended I went to Chuckawalla versus Ironwood, being that they're opening it up.
Yeah.
And at this time, I think I was accepted for Centinela Prison and Calipatria Prison as well. And so out of the list that you get to choose what joint you want to go to before you go to the academy. And that's why I just went to Chuckawalla. Not because I knew anything more than, one thing. I told my brother, I think that the prisons that were available, backtracking with Brother Ray, that these were the prisons. So I ran the names of the prisons down to him. And he goes, pick any one of them. He goes, those are all shitholes. And if you're at one of them, I don't have to be transferred to one of them. So for selfish reasons, he didn't want to go down there. So now back to the academy itself. So we're in a big auditorium. They break it down by names. And then day one, you get fitted for your uniforms. And all they are is these UPS looking uniforms. So there's some studs in there, no doubt about it. But some of the caliber, I'm thinking, good God. I mean, these are some people that don't even look like they can tie their shoes. And I had this one female cadet. She was so obese. Her last name began with a W, so she's in our company. She was so obese that she couldn't even. They didn't have a uniform big enough for her. Oh, man. So she had to wear her sweatshirt, and it said CDC corrections underneath, and everybody else is in uniforms because they had to wait this special order or sew 2 of them together. Yeah. And I was like, this is what we're in for. If I can't make it through these 6 weeks, and if she can, there's something really wrong with me. So a little ego boost on my side. And she actually graduated, and she went to Ironwood Prison. And they would call her Kool-Aid. Like, hey, Kool-Aid? Like crashing through walls. That was her nickname.
Oh, yeah.
So God bless her. I hope she did well. And maybe she retired and living a happy life and all that. So that's what it was.
Did you live in Blythe?
We did.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they count the prison population as part of the city population, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I had a friend in the Marine Corps lived there. He ended up dying of a drug overdose in Blythe. So, yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. Not a lot to do out there.
Oh, man. You know, if you're a desert rat, you like that off-roading or the Colorado was right there. I mean, that was... Yeah, but as a young married couple, I can tell you right now, my wife hated it. Day one, hated it. And knowing that out of the 700 of us can you imagine the population spiking? There wasn't a lot of housing. So
Yeah.
on one of my weekends off in the 6 weeks I was in the academy, I came home. We grabbed, the little one, threw him in the car with us, and we jammed all the way to Blythe. So I drove all the way from Galt, California to Bakersfield, picked up my wife and my son, and then we drove all the way to Blythe and put a deposit down. I didn't know. I just went there and said, to a rental office, and where are we going to stay? And slim pickings at that point. So I knew we had about 500-ish people that were trying to find housing, and we were able to find a mobile home over there. It's an avocado green mobile home right off of Interstate 10.
Nice.
Oh yeah. If you're ever on Interstate 10, there's an ag station and the trucks with Jake brake. Look to the right, the avocado green single wide. That's where I lived.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So how long were you with CDC?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I loved the job, man. I mean, it was similar to the culture. Wasn't the prisoners or anything, but the guards and the funny people that you would meet through that adventure. And glad I went to Chuckawalla. When I started, I mean, I wasn't like I was 21. I was just young in law enforcement in general,
Yeah.
and no maturity, just trying to figure things out. And go through the orientation, and a lot of the older guards there were, they tell you a lot of the scary stories, and don't get thrown off tiers, watch out for this, they're going to try to shank you and all this stuff. You're like, God dang. So it's a lot of take, and you do your 1 week orientation, and then basically they sign you a housing unit and say good luck. So day one, I was assigned to this dorm 10. Now, to give a little perspective, the dorms themselves, there's 3-sided dorms. So you got A, B, and C, 2 tiers, all open dorm setting, 292 inmates at any given time. And it's like, the best I can describe, it's like a beehive of activity. And I'm on day shift, so I think the hours are like 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And there's just me and another guy. It's a non-armed dorm, so you have a crow's nest up above you, but it's not housed. They have it up there in case there's an emergency. They can put guns up top, but yeah, but short of that, it's just you and your partner. And so I get to work that day one, and there's a big I think they call it where they keep all the what they call hotkeys, the big Folger Atoms, and you get your baton. And what you really do is you just give your metal chits to the control officer, who switches those chits out with your name on it, and they give them to who you're going to replace. And you walk down to the dorm, and you hand your chits to the guard on duty you're changing over with, and they give you the equipment, the little PR-24 baton, the garage door opener, alarm, and a set of keys, and that's all you have. And so I do my chit thing, and I'm walking, and there's central towers. You got to go through these like sally ports with these fencing. So I get to one, and the guy up in the tower goes, "Sorry, the gate's frozen." I'm like, "What the hell does that mean?" And he can't let anybody in or out. So I don't know what's going on. By the way, they just had a riot like 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before. 2 inmates were shot. Whole yard's on lockdown, C yard over there, and so it was already high tense going into it, because you're thinking riots, and
Yeah.
and and this is when they had weight piles, and weight piles where they had all the dumbbells and the plates and stuff. And I wasn't there for the riots, but everybody that was there was saying that there was just dumbbells, 10, 15, 20 pounders flying out like Braveheart, shit flying one way and shit flying the other way, and
Yeah.
guards were in the middle of it, and rounds were going off. And this is what I'm walking into. So I'm already scared shitless for this in the first place. Gates frozen, don't know what's going on. And now I'm thinking, man, this is going for a while, but it's literally broke. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like 10 minutes late to get to me and a bunch of guys. So you get to do the first layer of gates, and you spread out to whatever door or yard you're going to. And D yard's all the way over to the right, over in Chuckawalla. And walking down there, finally get in there, get to my dorm. And as soon as I walk in there, Madrano is my partner, and he goes, "You want breakfast or lunch?" I'm like, "What?" I just get the gear, and I'm just overwhelming. And this guy's been around for like 5 or 6 years. I go, "Yeah, lunch?" He goes, "Okay. Well, when they call you on the phone, then release the dorm for chow. That's all you got to do. Just say, get on they got a PA, and you tell the dorm, go to chow." I'm like, so I repeated it to him. Okay, they call me, I hit the PA, and then they let him go to chow. That's it. I'm like, all right, cool, man, I can do that. So day one. So the way the dorm works, you go through a metal door that you have a key for, and then you get to a grill gate, and there's a long hallway, and the rotunda, the crow's nest up above you, and there's glass. There's a bathroom for staff, and then there's a some kind of storage closet with toilet paper, trash bags, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the gates in the opening from the door to the grill gate is open. We left them open pending release for chow. And there's an officer's podium. There's an office behind us, and then out in the front of this dorm of the 292 inmates that were all sleeping for the most part when I got there. They're still in bed, but there's a big red box painted on the ground of the concrete that says out of bounds in white lettering. That means the inmates aren't supposed to go into the box. That inside the box, access to the podium and access to get out into the yard. And so there's two showers, like one on the first floor and second floor in front of you. So now, brand new cop sitting at this little podium, and it's pretty quiet, and a couple janitors, or they call them tier tenders, come rolling up on me, and I don't know anybody day one. They know I'm new, and then they come up and they go, "Hey, sir, or CEO, I need a trash bag. I'm doing trash." And I'm like, "No, I'm not supposed to give anything out because you're told don't give anything away because they're gaming you, and next thing you know, you'll be, mailing out packages of dope for them and bringing fucking whatever." So, anyways, I'm like, "Nope, not getting it." So I'm just trying to play hard because I'm scared. And I'm like sweating. I'm wearing this buttoned up like sheriff's department looking shirt and these like wool green pants, and the sweat rings are coming. I mean, I'm just sweating through everything. And I look down and go, Jesus Christ. So I'm just waiting. And then about 10 minutes into it, because there's 3 housing units on a yard, I think it's dorm or D 9, 10, and 11. I was in 10, the middle one. And they have this weekly cleanest dorm competition to who gets to go to chow first for that day. That's by the order of the cleanliness of your dorm. Well, our dorm was going to be released last. So, the inmates are still kind of bedded down. A few of them are up. And then I can start smelling cigarette smoke. And you weren't supposed to do that. I'm like trying to find out where I could see smoking going on. Couldn't find anything. I wasn't leaving that podium, by the way. I was like, I'm going to run out this door and hide if I have to, if something goes bad. And then it gets about 15 minutes of getting closer. They know when they get to release from chow. Then you start seeing a couple people getting up and getting dressed, showers going on and everything starts getting noisy. And then the buzzing and the loudness and the concrete building. And then just like, now you got half the dorm awake. And now I'm just like, man, this ain't cool at all. I don't like this. I don't want to be a part of this. And then you hear the whole dorm, 292 dudes in the housing. It is like rock and roll. There's guys, they started getting on the red line knowing that the chow's going to be released. And then I'm like, "Hey, you're stepping on the red line. Get on the other side," like by inches. And they look at me like, "Whatever, fish," and they walk over. And then by the time then another group would get over, and then they were all like over the out of bounds. They're on the podium and they're waiting to be released from chow. The phone rings. And I'm like, thank God. I pick up the phone, and as I couldn't say anything, they just start walking, like walking past me. And then I'm just like, Woolard, dorm 10. And then it was a neighboring dorm cop. He goes, "Hey, what's going on? You're the new guy, huh?" I'm like, I can't talk. And I hang up, and I'm trying to get people back in. I was, stop. Nobody listened to me.
Yeah.
Kept rolling by. And then I hear alarms going off, like my lights in the dorm. And then I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know what to do. So I'm just standing there. And then I see all the inmates getting, like, they're coming back, but being pushed back. And I'm worried about crush and everything. And then I see a bunch of the dorm officers pushing everybody back into the dorm. They put everybody on the bunk. The sergeant, his name is Barry, he came in there and he goes, "Who's running this fucking dorm?" I was like, "Me." He goes, "If you can't handle this fucking job, get the fuck out of here. I'll get somebody here that can." And just ripped me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, dude. And then they had to release all the inmates one by one to get them out. And then I was like, God. And then when Madrano came back, after he covered breakfast, he came back and he goes, "What happened?" And I go, "Dude, the phone ring. Oh, it's just the dorm cop next fucking with you." I'm like, "Oh, this is really bullshit."
Yeah.
It was bullshit.
Yeah.
So anyways, I made it through the day. I turn my chits or whatever, and I get in the car, drive to Blythe. I go in there and I tell my wife, I go, "Pack her shit. I'm not going back. I'm not going back." I said, "I'm quitting." And she's crying. She's like, we need to, this and that. And I'm like, "I can't do this. There's no way." And 4 years later, I made it through that first day, man. It was just horrible. So, so I did 2 years Chuckawalla, and then I transferred to Tehachapi State Prison. Okay. And I did 2 years there. Yeah.
Okay. Then you went over into the policing side, and what year was that when you became a police officer?
Yes. So, I wasn't. I kind of jumped around a little bit. I should have did a better bio than that, but off the deep end. So he was kind of. I mentioned LAPD,
Yeah.
so I went back and reinstigate or not reinstigate. I started because when I took the job, for some reason my handler or whatever with LA said, "Yeah, try it out. If you don't like it, then we'll freeze your application." So I called LAPD and I spoke with that guy yeah, that guy, and I told him, hey, I'm done with the CDC. I'd like to try the street type stuff. And he's like, cool, we'll start you back up. And part of it is because I went to Tehachapi, I went to this vacation relief position, which every 2 weeks you're just covering a vacation spot. And I worked from the 1 yard all the way up to the max. And it was a 6 month rotation. So it was a grind, like don't know what you're working every week or every 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
I started the LAPD thing. And for whatever reason, I was up on the 4 yard with one of the Menendez brothers. He was
Oh,
in
wow.
our housing unit. Yeah. So it was a weird 2 weeks on that vacation because one of it covered the central tower, which overlooked all the yards, and the other one was like the way the relief spot worked. You worked like 3 days in the central tower up on the max yard, and then 1 day or 2 days in a like a sally port that like the food trucks and the garden or whatever kind of car. So you basically had minimal contact. I was just a tower.
Hmm.
So the Menendez story. So it was when I was at that yard. Um, I was up in the tower and I saw two things during that tour. I saw an inmate get stabbed. Not again see him get stabbed, but it was a tower where two of us, me and my partner, were up there, and you had like a commode with like a shower curtain, and you had your mini 14s gunned down on the yard. So you had the 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 Chicans on one side, the Paisas, you had the blacks, and you had the whites, and they all
Hmm.
kind of the whites and Hispanics kind of clicked up,
Yeah.
and the Paisas were playing handball,
Yeah.
and so you had that whole dynamics of prison life. So we were we were sitting on the yard and they were just getting ready to open the yard up, and that means everybody comes out for free play. So all the Hispanics come out and they're all shaved up, white clothes, white boxer shorts, and they were rolling over to the handball court area. Had the CO down to my right, and his name is Sonny, and he was just super cool, man. He looked like Wolfman Jack, kind of. He
Hmm.
just had that really. He always wore cowboy boots and stuff, and he's kind of like a yard legend. He
Yeah.
knew everybody and that kind of thing. So I recognized him just by reputation, and he's sitting up on the steps way back. And I'm standing there, and then the yard's out, and my partner goes, "Hey man, I'm going to take a piss." I'm like, "Yeah, go take a piss, man. I got it." So I move over to the left a little bit so I can watch the blacks and the Hispanics and the whites all kind of do their thing.
Hmm.
So I'm just looking one way, and then I can hear my partner pissing, and so I'm looking the other way, and then I look around, I see Sonny. I caught the movement of him running towards the Hispanics. Then I heard over the radio, "Put the yard down." I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" Yard down, and so the inmates, Hispanics, they all laid down, and they were doing like this snow angel thing. I'm like, what in the hell? So I got the gun up. My partner, he's still pissing all that coffee. And I see Sonny get over there, and I'm looking. I don't know what they're doing now. All the yard officers are going there. Then he calls for EMT or MTA or whatever they call them, the medics.
Yeah.
They come out with a stretcher. I'm looking down. I see him pushing people away, and then all you can see is a blood like pooling underneath one guy, but all the other inmates are still doing snow angels. And I'm like, what? I didn't know what was going on. And they go and they start handcuffing people, and they get the EMT there, and what they were doing is they stabbed this dude on the yard, and they were grabbing the shank, and every one of them in unison were using this arm so you couldn't see who had the shank, and then who was taking it to the
Mm.
storm drain. Crazy. So I saw that. I'm like, good God, man.
So they're
And
all motioning fake handoffs at the same time, but there's
yep.
one real handoff
It was
happening.
one real handoff happening, but
Smart.
it was like so coordinated.
Yeah.
And I was like, how in the hell did they know that guy was pissing? They were watching us, and they
Yeah.
knew when he probably what time he pissed, and
Yeah.
it's crazy.
And they did like a synchronized swimming routine at the
It was well,
passing
it's like
off
a
the.
centipede, like
Yeah.
like a rolling wave of a little white Hispanic ball, and they all had shaved heads, and
Yeah.
couldn't tell from which from which. It was crazy. So, anyways, you had that happen on that deal. And the Menendez story is this is after he was convicted, him and Bro went to some pen up north, and he got stationed or he got housed in our yard. And I remember him going out to the yard. He had a pair of like Ray-Ban glasses on and a brand new pair of tennis shoes. And we were watching him because he was like a high level kind of guy. And I just lost track of him. And then I remember when they're calling in yard, I could see him. No sunglasses, no tennis shoes. He's walking with his little flip flops, and somebody robbed him on the yard. I'm like, oh, that sucks. And so I know his thing was like, even at that time, most inmate housing units would get like a bag of mail. And even the as infamous as he was back then, he'd get two, three big bags of mail just stacked with stuff, and beautiful women come visiting him in visiting room. Yeah, just crazy. So,
Wow.
anyways, that experience, that other tower, that central, the relief sent me to that back Sally port. And all you could do really is watch grass grow. It was a boring job. And a car would pull up, you look at their ID or whatever, they wave to you, and you just send them in type deal.
Yeah.
And happened to be a newspaper up there. Back then, no social media, no
Yeah.
word of mouth. I had no really true family relations with the city. I think I was aware they weren't hiring when I was testing for LA and CDC, but I had by marriage, I had a relative that worked for or was a reserve officer for the PD, and they mentioned to me that, hey, I think we're going to be hiring pretty soon. Pay attention. All right, and it's like a side note type thing. So, anyways, I go up to the tower. I'm hanging out for the day, and I look over newspaper. So I start looking at the newspaper and looked at the classifieds in the old school manner. I saw,
Mhm.
want to be a cop is hiring, and that's when I put in an application and went to the Civic and stood in line with about 2,000 other people
Yeah.
to get the job. And that's kind of led that course. And I didn't get picked up on the first wave, but the second wave on that first list. So
Yeah.
that's what kicked it all off, fellas.
So then what kind of assignments did you work? Or how long were you street well, I should say street cop because you spent a lot of time up in management positions as well, but
Yeah.
overall, how long was it?
Um, with the state's time, that was little over 4 years. And then with PD, it was 26 years and 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what kind of assignments did you work with the PD?
Yeah, man, I was just blessed, brother.
Yeah.
Just blessed. Just your patrol dog type stuff, and meeting some good people. Just trying to figure out life, and
Hmm.
a lot of good wisdom coming out of the woodwork. A lot of generationally. I know we have a really good infusion of a lot of like veterans that are coming into our workforce with some overseas experience, and when I first got on, I mean, we had a lot of, not a lot, but we had several Vietnam veterans that were
Mm.
still a part of, our older patrol class. And like Vegas, he was his pictures on the hallway. If you notice him, he's one of our officers that were killed in the line of duty in a motorcycle crash. And if you're familiar with My Lai, that happened in Vietnam, he was at that unit in My Lai.
Really?
Yeah,
The My
yeah,
Lai
hundred
Massacre.
percent. Yeah, yeah. I never met him, but I know his partners, and they would talk about him. Just a good guy, and he was part of that unit. He was part of the activities actually
Mm.
that was going on,
Yeah.
but a lot of that historical facts of what happened in that generation. Um, I had a guy. His name is well, he's passed away now, but Fernando, and he was a consummate cool guy, Hispanic dude, and just he was the old foot beat kind of officer, and first couple days on the job, you're a new guy and you're just trying to stay afloat on paperwork and then stacking because that you earned your bones as a police officer by handling your beat, handling your paper, and that's what was ingrained in us. And you don't want to be one of the ones that just hid somewhere. You want to work and grabbing paper as much as you can. So wasn't uncommon for your shift ends. You're still there for 4 hours, just cracking away. You're not typing anything. This is pre-computer,
Yeah.
and you have those triplicate forms. You're just sitting in a squad room. So, anyways, Fernando, he was like going on the morning shift. I don't know, motor or traffic or whatever he was. Old Vietnam vet, a Marine. So he had that 1,000 yard stare just in general.
Hmm.
And he comes and sits next to me, and he's like, "Hey, rookie, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Paperwork, sir." He goes, "Good. I like seeing my rookies work late." And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Busy night?" And I go, "Yeah, it's pretty busy." He goes, "You could do more. You could work harder," and all that stuff. And he looks over at me and he goes, "Look at your badge." I'm like, "Where's this fucking thing?" Look at my badge. "Yes, sir." And I look at my badge, and he goes, "Now look at my badge." I look at him, I'm like, where's this going? You know, you don't know. I think he's a senior. Yeah, he's a senior.
Yeah.
So I look at his badge and I go, okay. And I'm not really understanding where this is going. And he goes, read your badge. What you say on top? And I was like, it says police officer, badge 851. And he goes, now look at mine again. And I look at him. It said policeman, badge number like 224 or whatever. He goes, that's right, rookie. When they got hired, they were hiring men. They ain't hiring officers like you. And he starts cracking up and he just walks away. And I'm like, all right, copy that.
Deep burn.
I think my estrogen just bumped on that one, man. I was like, God bless him. Yeah, yeah. A lot of characters on that. So that was and just surviving, just knowing the city. And I grew up in our town that we work in, and always a lot of pride. You know, we you know, your blue suits. You know, you treat yourself. Don't worry about what those slugs over there work at and how they are. And at the time, our counter agency in our county, they had a lot of big boys on there, man. I'm not saying I'm skinny now, but back then, I mean, they had some big fellas, and they were proud of it. And so we had a lot of pride of just that generationally. I think it just seemed like, you know, the patrol officers, because of hiring freeze, no promotions. I mean, we had like, you know, 10, 15-year veterans on there. A lot of guys took us under our wing when we first started, like Uncle Pete, LAPD transfer. Pete, well, and, you know, he loved working the midnights, and he really guided us. And the sergeants that worked on the midnights, they just seem older, like Sefton and Head and Bill Bailey, all the people that you looked up to. And there's no nonsense. It wasn't like Warren McCudley, we all need to be a team. It was like, carry your weight. That's all we ask. Carry your weight. If you don't, I'll fire you. And that's their mentality.
Yeah.
So you were either in the good graces or you were in the bad graces. There wasn't really in between. And they had that whole, when you came in as a new cop, you couldn't sit down till everybody sat down. You had to stand in the back of the classroom. The sergeants would come in briefing. They sit there and they'd say, all muscle, no fat, what's in the briefing. It wasn't about, you know, let's talk about our sensitivity, or let's talk about hurting people's feelings. It's be professional, but go out there and do your job, and consummate professional. From where I came from the Marines and their paramilitaristic kind of background, to CDC, where it was just more of a, you know, it's a different, but a lot of good people worked there. And then to the police officer family, you could see there was a noticeable difference of pride, you know, how you take care of your stuff. Your boots better be shiny. There's a lot of that influence, and you know, don't come in there unshaven. I mean, there was not true inspections like some of the agencies, but you were checked pretty quick if you're looking raggedy. And I appreciated that, because it really gave you guidance. So the patrol thing, and then maybe 3-ish years going back. Patrol about 3.5 years, and then I tested for the SWAT team. And they just changed it where most of the SWAT operators, they were 15 plus years on. I mean, there weren't a lot of young pups on there, but because of the disparity of the hiring and the freezes, I mean, it opened up opportunities. So I tested. I didn't get picked up on the first round. I think I was on the list with Ed, Johnny T, and Renee. And I was like 4th or 5th picked out of that evolution. But when I started that team so young, I was like the youngest guy to get picked up, and they were all shocked. Like, usually we don't pick up people this young. But I was fortunate for that. So then I promoted to senior patrolman, then to sergeant, then go detectives and specialized units, and just through, you know, mentoring and not really planning on promoting. I think I just wanted to be happy no matter where I was at, and listening to some of the wise men that I guess counseled me through the years. They would tell me, yeah, I think you're ready for that next step and you should be testing. And I always listen. You know, I wish, I guess in retrospect, that I would have tried a little more details or stayed in details longer. But I think 2 to 3 years in any unit's probably a good time, and move on, because after that, these just bad things can naturally happen. So promoted to captain, and with my PERS state PD, that gave me 30.5 years. So when they say you're literally losing money by staying, that's the position I was in. So I decided to retire.
Yeah. But you worked pretty much everywhere, did everything.
You name it, man.
Yeah.
I've dabbled or touched or
Hmm.
on the periphery of some kind of unit. Minus traffic, never worked
Oh,
traffic.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
lucky the game. Yeah,
Um, you had a story about an exorcist, or
yeah,
that
brother.
we wanted to hear about.
Man, I tell you, and it's timely, being that today is Halloween.
Yeah.
I was a senior patrolman, and part of the role was you train the new officers. You're kind of the extension of the get out of the academy, and they're just learning how to be police officers, not
Hmm.
policemen, but officers.
Yeah.
And I got this young guy, man, a good looking kid too, and I would just call him K Dub. I called him Cherub, like the little angel, because he had these rosy red
Mm.
cheeks, and and Cherub or K Dub, he was what do you call it? An alumnus kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I knew he was coming on, and I was told he was coming to me. His godfather, Blue, pulled me to his side. I think Blue was just a new sergeant at the time, and Blue told me, he goes, "Hey, I want you to be rough on this kid, but I don't want you to give him any slack. I want you to make sure he's trained up right. He's my godson." And I owe him and his dad, or I owe his dad a lot. And I said, "Copy that, boss. I'll make sure it's okay." So, so I got that pressure. I got a well-respected sergeant, Blue, that kind of told me that I'm going to have to take care of this kid.
Yeah.
Well, K-Dub, he was also a Catholic, which makes it timely. I don't know how religious he was at the time, but he was very eager. He was just a sharp guy. He liked to talk a lot. So
Hmm.
anytime I could crush his ego, I would.
Yeah.
Just and not on some to give him a little dose of humility because it's important in the
Yeah.
business. So we're to the point where I'm actually in the passenger seat and he's the driver. So we're like 2, 3 weeks into the training. And I
Mm.
even think I told him, I go, dude, you're not going to fail. No matter what you do, just don't do anything officer safety wise and you'll learn. And he got it. And he was a knack at it anyways. So he gets sent to this call. Um, Check the welfare of a guy call. And the mother's the reporting party. And it's a midnight car in the fall, winter. So it's cold. It's in the old Oleander area in our city. It's these houses built in the 30s, 40s, 50s,
Hmm.
and they had the street lights were the translucent kind of orangish glow. Plus, with the fog in that time of year, it gives that real creepy feeling, anyways. And so you go, okay, got the call. We had our little MDC, which is a little computer that was glowing green or red or whatever color. And so I'm like, I'm just sitting there. I'm just not saying anything because I think he's mature enough to, he's working as a single officer unit, but I'm in the car with him, just giving a little nudging and guidance and those
Hmm.
kind of things. So, so goes to the call, finds it. It's over off of one of these streets off of downtown-ish. And he gets to the call. We park short. Everything looks good. We get out of the car and I walk. I'm just shadowing him. So let's go make contact. Cool. Knocks on the door and it's this elderly Hispanic lady. And she's like, "It's my son. I don't know what he's not. He ran from here. I don't know where he's at." And he's an adult guy. And so Kelly's asking the right questions. Has he done this before? No, never done this before. Has he got drugs? No, my boy doesn't do drugs. And I'm all right, cool. And then drinking, nothing, nothing, nothing. You don't know where he's at? No. And then Kelly looks at me and I go, "Well, I don't see a crime. What do you want to do?" And he goes, "Well, we could circulate for him." That's a good job there, young officer. We'll circulate. So he tells the mom, "Hey, we'll go out and we'll try to find your son and we'll see what's going on." Okay, copy that. All right, thank you. All right, so we pull up the guy's name. There's no warrants, no nothing, no calls, previous calls at the place. And that's what we do. We just jump in the car, turn the heater on, and hey, let's just drive down streets and see what happens. And slow night, no, not a lot of activity going on. We do like a uh, zigzagging serpentine, cruising the area, go up like 4 or 5 blocks, hit a couple of main streets, zigzag back to the neighborhoods and spotlights and all that good stuff. And yeah, MIA, can't find him. Cool. What are you gonna do, young officer? And he goes, let's go back and talk to the mom and tell her we can't find him. That's a great idea, sir. Let's do that. So we come off the main street, go down the same original street where the house is at. And about mid block, I'm looking down the street and I'm like, what in the hell is that? It's in the middle of the roadway. Is it a dog? Is it a cat? No idea. So we're in, and K Dub is like slow rolling towards it. And I got my spotlight and I go, that looks like a person out in the middle of the street. And we get a little bit closer, and I go, yeah, that's a person, man. I go, oh. And then we get maybe 4 or 5 car lengths away from him, and we're slow rolling up to it. We see the bottom of the feet. The guy's stretched out, his arms are out, and his legs are crossed like he's Jesus on a crucifix. Eyes are just locked straight up in the sky. And I was like, holy shit. I go, so we're parked, our spotlights are on it, and the guy's frozen on the ground, looks like Jesus Christ himself. And he's wearing his tidy whities, by the way, and he said, that's it. And or K-Dub's all, what do you want to do? I go, well, let's go out and make contact, see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So he gets out of the car, I get out of the car, and we start walking, kind of at an oblique angle towards him. No weapons, the guy's hands are out, and I'm like, it was creeping me out, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And I looked over, and we're like on the opposing side of this poor guy, and he's just locked in there, frozen, like in a state of tonic or something. And he's not blinking or doing anything, and he keeps looking at me like, what do I do? Yeah. I go, well, talk to him, see if he listens. And he's like, he's like, sir, excuse me, sir. And he keeps chuckling because this is like what I expect a new guy to do, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, sir, keep saying it. And the guy's locked out, and he turns his head right at and he says, I want to fuck you. And he puts his head right back. And I was like, thank you, God. I go, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. So I'm laughing now. And then so he looks like he is beat red, and he's just like we couldn't believe that. So comical how he said it. Didn't miss a beat. That's exactly verbatim what he said.
Yeah.
And he's locked up again. And then he goes, what do I do now? I go, well, don't let him fuck you. so he goes, I go, tell him to roll over on his stomach. And then he goes, sir, roll over on your stomach. The guy rolls over on his stomach. And I go handcuff him. Because he's wearing underwear. Yeah, come on. So go and handcuff him. And he picks him up. No drama. Went clean. Put him in the back of the car. All right, cool. Throw him in the back car. And I go, hey, I'll stay here with your lover and go talk to the mom and see if they'll let her know we're taking her son up to medical. No problem. So guy's sitting in the back car, just very compliant, just sitting back there. I'm out there. And then Kelly comes back. Okay, mom's on board. Oh, I told grab the guy's clothes. So he had a pair of pants and shoes and all that shit. So comes back and throw that shit in the trunk, man. Let's go. And I go, so he's driving. He's working the radio and everything. I'm just sitting in the car. So we start driving away, and I go, did you code off for transporting? You go, oh, I forgot. All right, well, let's let everybody know we're taking him to over the radio. Copy that, sir. And then that's when the weird part started. So,
well, that's when.
Yeah. And then because I'm on the grill gate side, Kelly's on the plastic side. And then I heard a growl. It was like a deep humbling growl. And I was like, what the? And then I heard like a growl on top of a growl, like and it got louder and louder. So Kelly's coding off, like we'll be 10:15 up to Kerr Medical and this growling's going on. And only thing I could think of, it was freaking me out so bad. I look back, and now the guy's like locked up, like he's levitating in the back of the car. And I didn't know, man. I was just like, the only thing that came to mind was, may the power of Christ compel you. May the power. So I'm screaming this like Kelly's coding off. Yeah. And so once he keys the bike, he's like, I'm like, get us to the hospital, man. And this guy growled all the way to the hospital. And all the way, the little MDCs, you can message people. And people are like, what's in your car? Is that a dog? I'm like, no, know what it is. So we go to the 3B, and I told Kelly, just take his ass in there, man. I'll do the arrest card. We're holding this guy. So I don't know. Back then I wasn't that religious, but I'm pretty sure we probably had Satan himself in the backseat of our car or a cousin or something like that. But that was one of those things, man. Yeah. Good time patrol stuff.
Get him an exorcist.
Amen.
All right. Talk to us about the Rainbow Room.
Yeah. Halloween night. Yeah. So the Rainbow Room, going back, the Halloween was kind of like one of those nights that anything could happen. You call it the bewitching hour or whatever, but all the freaks come out at night, man, no matter where you're at in the city. So being new guys, and one of the things when we started, you don't get a take-home car when you first start. Mm-mm. And I think any police officer, wherever you work at in the United States, if you got a fleet of cars, you know which one's the jalopy is. Yeah. Right. And back then, I would come to work an hour early to avoid this specific car. It was beat up. It was barely running, and when it was running, it would break down all the time, and it was that car. So our midnight shift, get in, start your briefing, do all your good stuff, and then and grab that keys right away. And it so happened like a rookie cop was coming in the shift before, so I got a decent car that night, you know, because when you got a good car, everybody kind of takes care of each other. And one of my road dogs, and this guy's your typical, he's a partner. He's not in the same car, but he was my adjoining beat partner. And we'll call him Mongo. Now, Mongo was a poster board perfect, like airborne guy in the Army. He was stocky, short, but he talked with like a gravelly voice all the time, and he was comedy, man. Or not was, he is comedy. Could tell a story. He just one of those guys. It was fun to be around, and he's a straight up knuckle dragger. So. For this story, his nickname for us from the academy was Mongo. So, anyways, Mongo's on our shift, and we're covering calls on Halloween night, and the Rainbow Room was this gay bar in our zone, and I don't think it's open anymore, but you had some very colorful and flavorful calls that came out of that call or out of that club. So Halloween night, they had this big like costume party at the Rainbow Room, and anything from the Fruit of the Loom characters to God knows what else. It was just on what you would expect, I guess. And so we end up, me and Mongo get dispatched together at the Rainbow Room because there was a assault with a beer bottle. So being a well-trained officer, I was always told to park like away from the objective and then walk in. For some reason, Mongo just pulls up right to the front of the place, and the victim's already laid out on the cracked skull and head with blood coming out in the front of the Rainbow Club, and he was hit with a beer bottle, I think it was. So he's alert and conscious. So it wasn't anything where you needed like significant response. And actually the Rainbow Club was spilled out and everybody's having a good time. It was like an incidental thing that just happens at gay clubs apparently. And so we're trying to interview people, which, you know, they're in costume. So it's kind of funny just to talk to, witnesses, and they're dressed up in their regalia of Halloween night. And some of them are pretty hilarious. So the ambulance shows up. We get the guy up to the ambulance, taking care of whatever. And so the call's essentially over. You know, I grabbed all the information I needed. I'm get my report done. So I jump in my car, and I start driving away. And I start like not fast or anything. I'm looking at Mongo, and I see he's still parked out there. And now his car's kind of being surrounded. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I'm at a distance. I'm seeing how this plays out. I'm like, why isn't he driving away? Oh, maybe he's got information. Oh, it's my paper. I'll go back. So I flip back around. And he's not on the radio or anything. And I pull up next to him, and all I see is like he's got these big old biceps, and he's like doing this like motion like this on the gear handle. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He goes, the car won't go into gear. And I'm like, what? And now everybody's out waving, go woo woo. Yeah. And then I'm like laughing. I'm like, man, this is funny. He says he's in the jalopy. Yeah. And I was like, dude, what are you gonna do? And he goes, get behind me and push me. He wants to push bumper. I'm like, no, dude. He goes, yeah, just push me like down the street. I don't want to be in front of this club anymore. And he's smoking a cigarette. And he's like shaking like this, you know. He's like pissed off, and he does this weird little, get me out of here, man. Come on, just leave me here, fucker. And I'm like, so I'm laughing. I go, okay. So I go behind his car. Now my back push bumper is on the back of his car, and I'm going to try to push him. I didn't think it was going to work, man. Yeah. I was going to try to push him in front of the store down the street that we call a tow. And as I'm pushing his car, his rear end of the car would go up, and I had to back up. And I did this like 10 times. And the whole gay chorus and crowd, they all emptied, and they were like, yeah. Every time I would ram Matt, they would clap, and it was so funny. I was like, I was laughing so hard, I think I pissed my pants, honestly. I think I literally peed. And I pulled up next to Matt, and I go, dude, this ain't working.
You're just ramming him in the rear end
in
front of the gay club?
Him in the rear, man, in front of the Rainbow Club. I pull up next to him, and I'm laughing, and he looks at me and goes, don't leave me, fucker. And I was like, so I looked at him, I go, fuck you. I put it in drive, and I left him. I was cracking up so hard. And I went down the street, and I kind of turned around, and I was watching him. and he's out of the car now.
Yeah.
And I see people coming up to him. And later on that night, I knew he was going to be pissed at me. I didn't know if he's going to punch me or what, but I told him, dude, I was watching you the whole time. You were safe. And he goes, yeah, man, you left me. You'll never guess what happened. He goes, I almost got handcuffed to my push bumper. I was sodomized on this thing. He goes, one of the guys came out and said, I feel so sorry for you. And he handed a flower. So
He almost joined the Village People out there.
oh, it was on, man. It was funny. So those little things, but yeah, Matt's never forgiven me on that thing, but it was a good one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good times.
Talk to us about the Blues Glove.
Yeah, man. So this kind of get on the time machine and go a little bit forward. This is the special enforcement unit, so the gang task or whatever you want to call them at the time. And Blue was our sergeant, and for some reason there was a homicide, and we're looking for some suspect over in the area that we were at. So we, most coppers will know this. I usually link up at parks, at school parking lots, behind grocery stores, or brief up, and that's all we're doing. So at the time, our agency was pretty strict. You wore wool uniforms. You always wore certain attire, and it wasn't really loose. And they just authorized wearing these cool looking neoprene gloves.
Mm-hmm.
These things were expensive. They're like $30 back in those days. That was a lot.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know what it is, but every gang cop back then, I'll chew tobacco. So we all meet up at this park, and we're kind of waiting for information to come in, and waiting for the warrant to get signed by the judge, I think it was. And it's we're out there, and it's cold as shit, and our sarge comes up, and he's a no nonsense kind of guy. Comes his own bravado side, and he comes up, and we're all in like a circle, and we've been spitting a big old pile of tobacco juice. I mean, disgusting, like Lake Michigan kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
And so we're just standing there, man, and here comes good old Sarge, man. He's like, "What's up, fellas? You ready?" And we're waiting on the paper, Sarge. And what's the plan? So we're just talking, pinning the warrant to do that. And he's got these gloves, man. I mean, he was talking about it. He goes, "I just picked up the gloves, man. Pretty nice." So he goes and he puts one of the gloves on, and he's holding on the other one. And he goes to put the other one on, and it fell off, and it fell right in the middle of all that tobacco juice. And he looked at each one of us. He goes, "You disgusting motherfuckers," because he didn't chew. And he just looked at us. Nobody went to pick it up. We all just stood there, and it wasn't a laughing situation. It was like, "Hey, let's get back in our cars and go." But so he gets so pissed off, he just gets in his car, and he leaves with his brand new glove sitting in the pile of tobacco juice, and took off. So be aware, man. You got new kit. You got to watch out for those SWAT cops or gang cops spitting everywhere.
He didn't even recover it then.
No, just left it there on the spot. Yeah, that thing was just the cost of doing business around dipshits like us.
Yeah, I pissed him off one time when I was a gang unit cop, and there's games get played in there, and there were desks, and everyone had name tags, and my partner had his name, and then under your name it would say police officer, and my partner is a Korean guy, and I used to mess with him all the time, and we had a label maker, and we changed his title from police officer to happy ending specialist. And so the Blue, he's in there one day, he's a higher rank at that point, he's mad at us for something, he's chewing everybody out, just going off about whatever we did that was messed up, and he's just yelling at us, he looks over and he sees his name tag, and it says my partner's name on it, it says happy ending specialist, and he just like breaks. It was it was great because he asked Chewie was over, then he gets mad, he's like, "Don't you know you're supposed to sanitize the room before I come in here?"
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Talk to us about the Foggy Night.
Oh man, Foggy Night. So again, just young cops, just trying to stay afloat and alive and everything else, and just that time of year when fog was just soupy. I mean, just like gets to a point at like 2-3 in the morning that you can't drive without crashing. So over on the west side, he had about 7 of us. We're all about the same level of experience, 2-3 years. And we decided, like, hey, let's just link up behind this building and just park and do paper and can't drive anywhere per the sergeant's orders and wait to get dispatched. There was no calls going in, just 0 calls. So we just no proactive policing. So we're parked like, side by side all the way down the row and just hanging out with the heaters on and talking. And one of my partners, Kevin, he was in that group too. And it was his beat that we were parked in. So next to us, there's behind the building we were at. And then you had a center block wall, then a small little surface street. And then you had a 7-Eleven. So as we're all sitting there, half of us nodding off, just trying to stay awake, and some of us probably weren't awake. But you hear a one tone goes out. Now, what a one tone is when you hear it, there's going to be a priority call after that. So here's a one tone: beep, unit to respond to a 211 armed robbery with a gun. And we're like, oh shit! And now it gets everybody all fired up, like, oh, we got a caper going on right now. And it said, then they followed up with the business was a victim of a 211. It was a 7-Eleven right on the other side of that wall where we were parked at. We're like, son of a... So we all get out of our cars. We're looking over the wall. We can't see anybody because it's so damn foggy. And I always thought it was funny that if the crook knew that half the PD was sitting right there for that wall, and he hits a lick at the 7-Eleven, and then it got away with it. Never found him. We tried to get in there, but man, it was so foggy. There's no way you could find out. No vehicle involved that we knew of, and it was one of those crazy nights. So
You're right there. Yeah, that's funny.
Right there. We're on the spot. Just might as well have been across town, man. Just didn't happen.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
good one.
All right, talk to us about let's do the peacock feathers.
Yeah, the peacock feathers. So now you get to a point in my career where man, I got like 2-3 years on. I feel pretty like I feel comfortable enough. I can handle calls, right? Like I can survive a call.
You're an old
first
salt.
2 years. You're shitting water, man. You're shitting water the first couple of years. You're like, I don't know what's going on. What is this? And then you get to a point now, like, hey, I can handle it. And I've been to several similar calls like this before. But there's a group of us, and we'll call one of them D. The other one later became a firefighter, officers in our crew. About the same equivalent, couple years difference, but we were just the young group. Our sergeant was a guy named Bill, and I really admired Bill. He was not a prior military guy, but his brother, I think, was like a pilot in the Air Force, and he grew up in a military family, and he always came across as just like a straight pro. And I loved him. Some people didn't. I thought he was the greatest because he spoke straight. He was a early mentor for me. He's a SWAT team guy too, so that kind of helped out as well. But just admired him, I guess. And he was a young sergeant. He was older, but he was a newer sergeant. Had a strong like IA internal affairs background, so he's very smart about how to navigate and what he expected from the officers. And that's something that was a really cool part of a midnight crew, just having that guidance and being under that left-right boundaries kind of operation. Anyways. So Chris and Dee were a car, and they worked together. Me and my partner, we were the adjoining district over in the high crimes area, if you want to call it that. And the good Sarge, he was good at navigating us hardheads, but he was also very supportive. It was like, hey, if you got a problem in your area, come up with a mission. We'll write an op order. We'll do everything. We'll do it right. I want to train you guys, and he was very cool about that. So Dee and Chris, they were getting a lot of vehicle burglaries at this club, primarily like a narco cartel-ish club off of a main area of town, and it would rock and roll.
Yeah.
And so think about like what your narcos, the Sinaloa cowboy kind of thing. That's hung out there.
The top 3 buttons and never buttons.
Yeah,
Those
the
little white cowboy hats.
The whole thing.
Matching belts with the boots.
Bingo. Yeah, you're spot on with that. So
a lot of pearl framed handguns, pearl gripped handguns.
Yeah, Jesus Malverde, all that good stuff. So Bill, the good Sarge was like, come up with the plan. The plan that they came up with was the vehicle burgs are out of control on Friday, Saturday nights, and we want to do an operation like Jump Street, 21 Jump Street operation. And we diagrammed it. We were going to have a couple takedown cars on point. Dee and Chris were going to be UC. So he encouraged that. Drop the blue suit for the night, dress down. You come in, you'll be our spotters. You call into airstrikes. We'll catch these dudes, right? And they were hitting like 3 or 4 cars a night. So it was a good system that we had up. And so now we're like, this is like a big thing for us because you're a young cop. You're thinking, man, this is like secret ops type stuff, right? Yeah. And then we're coming up and and day of the mission, we'll call it that. Like, it's happening tonight, man. And I'm like, I'm getting ready for work. I'm all jacked going, oh, it's going to be a good night. Yeah, we're going to go out and do some proactive takedowns of these career criminal type folk. When it used to be against the law, by the way.
Yeah.
Or it used to be against the law to break into stuff. Now it's kind of questionable.
Yeah.
Anywho, so get the briefing early. Bailey's there, and he always wore specs down on his thing. And he people are meandering in. We're all kind of coming into our, and we're talking like we're in the 5th month of our shift. So now you're really cohesive. There's a good shift to be a part. We got a good crew. Everybody kind of knows each other, our idiosyncrasies and everything. And then firefighter now, but used to be police officer, Chris, he comes in, he's got like the blue watchman cap all rolled up.
Yeah.
He's wearing a blue Pendleton. He's got a pair of jeans on, a pair of running shoes, his gun belt, everything's tucked in, man. He looks sharp. Like he's ready to go out and fight some crime, right?
Yeah.
And he's in there. So now we're in the briefing room, and the next room is a squad room. And it's separated. And you have mailboxes, and it's all tile floored. It's got a big table in that room where you put evidence and stuff, or interrogate people and interview them after arrest type of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're all pretty much, briefing's going to kick off at 9:00, and we're all ready there. D's not there yet, and he's part of he is running the mission. And then all I can hear is a click, 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 click. And everybody's kind of going, what in the hell is that? And you hear a click, 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 click. And next thing I see is I look through there, and coming through the door into the briefing room, this is what I see. I see a big black cowboy hat, a peacock feather, a satin shirt with gold, a pair of jeans, a big belt buckle, and a pair of cowboy boots. Like, he looked like a Sinaloa cowboy.
Yeah.
And I go, it was funny. I was like, what in the hell is this? So I look over at the Sarge, and the Sarge has his mouth open. He's like, he's kind of like not believing this. Nobody's believing it. And I'm laughing now. I'm like, this is funny. And I look over at Chris, and Chris is like, I don't know. And then the Sarge is like, D, look at your partner. Now look at you. You should be looking like your partner. Go home and change. I was like, D was like, what? This is how we dress. This is what I look like.
Yeah.
And funny, later on, that's what ended up happening to D, got caught up in that stuff. But, so that was a big old peacock feather, man. That thing was rocking. He's ready to go deep undercover, man. He's going to bust it wide open. So
probably would fit right in.
Yeah, that was probably a tell.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, Captain Woolard, thank you for coming out and talking to us.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you, everybody out there, for listening, and stay frosty.